President Stillwell?
Here.
Trustee Lundy.
Here.
Trustee Bonnie?
Here.
Trustee Michaels? Trustee Special?
Here.
Trustee London?
Here.
Trustee Roscoff?
Here.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the airport report.
Yes, we did have a meeting last week. It's new for some people that might not. They're working on a new entrance sign for the airport. It's been in the process, well, actually for a couple of years, but it is moving forward, and it's unincorporated, so it doesn't come through the village where the sign goes. But it's under IDOT for permit review, so they are working on a new sign for the airport. They did get a little bit of their entrance on the East Road paving done. The rest of the paving that they had set up at the airport for the parking lot and other roads is currently under review at IDOT. The contractor that has the job is currently under review by IDOT, so they're holding all their contracts right now. There's going to be some runway safety improvements where it's really kind of going to be a painted green island to control the way that airplanes approach the airport or the runway when they're going to take off. So I think it's just a safety improvement. They have had flight operations increase, so they have had more flights coming in and out this year. So they did receive their new snow equipment, and that concludes my report if anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to the next item. Is there any public comment this evening on scheduled action items, the consent or general business items on the agenda?
No one signed up, but they're leaving.
All right. Hearing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. The items on the consent agenda this evening are the approval of the June 3rd, 2025 village board meeting minutes, approval of the vouchers, approval of the May 2025 treasurer report, an ordinance amending village code section 216, terminal equipment compensation, the compensation plan commission, and an ordinance amending village code section 622, speed limits on Heartland Drive.
I'd like to remove item D, please.
Oh, wait, item D will be removed. Are there any other items requested to be removed? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve items A, B, C, and E?
I make that motion.
We have a first from trustee Lundy, is there a second?
Second.
And a second from trustee London. Or, you know. Thank you. If we get a roll call, please, Tracy, to approve.
Trustee Lundy.
Aye.
Trustee London.
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Special?
Aye.
Trustee Roscoff?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the consent agenda items A, B, C, and E are approved.
Item D, the reason I removed it was just because after our discussion and after our last meeting, I went to McDonald's to pick up my dinner because I didn't feel like cooking, and after I paid my $35, or whatever for my family, and I had to say, gosh darn, Sean, you're right. When he said he use it to pay for babysitters or fast food. So I'm in complete agreement of it, and in that, yep, there are times we don't feel like cooking, and we should not penalize our planning commissioners for that.
And then, so just to clarify, are you, is it the amount?
No,
Or just that we should?
I'm fine with raising it to what we had agreed on before.
Okay. So then we will, so the question is, should the compensation plan, or compensation for the planning commissioners be approved at, I believe it was $35?
Correct.
Okay, at $35. Tracy, can we have a roll call to approve that one?
I think we need a
Motion and a second.
I'm sorry.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. We have a first from trustee Special and a second from trustee London. If we could then have a vote to approve the plan commission compensation increase.
Trustee Special?
Aye.
Trustee London?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy,
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Roscoff?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the planning commission compensation is increases approved. Our next item on the agenda is general business. If we could have a motion to discuss and approve a resolution amending the number of temporary liquor licenses in the village of Sugar Grove.
I'll make that motion.
We have a first from trustee Special. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, and we have a second from trustee Roscoff. Is there any discussion? All right, if we can have a roll call for a vote, please, Tracy.
Trustee Special?
Aye.
Trustee Roscoff?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy,
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee London?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the resolution amending the number of temporary liquor licenses in Sugar Grove is approved. Our next item of general business is the approval on premise all ages temporary liquor license, non-licensed holder for the Sugar Grove Corn Boil, for the Corn Boil events in Volunteer Park on July 24th to 27th. Can we have a motion to discuss and approve?
I'll make that motion.
We have a first from trustee Special. Is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
make that second.
We have a second from trustee Roscoff. Is there any discussion? And if we could have a roll call for a vote, please, Tracy.
Trustee Special?
Aye.
Trustee Roscoff?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy,
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee London?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the approval of the temporary liquor license for the Corn Boil is approved. Up next on the agenda, we have public comment. Is anyone signed up for this public comment? Or would anyone like to come up and make public comment? All right, hearing none, we will close public comment at this time. Up next on the agenda is discussion items. Item A is the Aurora Airport Solar Project 1 and 2 Special Use Permit Extension. Community Development Director Danny Marion has a board report on this item.
Previously, on April 16, 2024, 2 solar energy garden systems were approved for our property located at the Aurora Airport. Per our code, they have 12 months to establish the special use or obtain a building permit. The village board is also permitted in our code to grant up to 2 6-month extensions to that deadline. Previously, in November of 2024, the board granted 1 6-month extension to them, which extended their deadline to October 16, 2025. They have now submitted to us a request for a second extension that would then extend their approval deadline to April 16th of 2026. So they are here requesting that from you guys. I am wishing that the board would discuss the proposal and provide me feedback on the needed ordinance to draft the approval. The reason for the extension request is because they have to have FAA approval being at the airport, and those reviews are taking extensive times.
Is there any discussion?
I have a question. What happens if they don't do the next 6 months? Is it on the table and we start over again, or what happens?
So if you don't grant the second extension, they would have to receive their building permit by October 16th, 2025. If they do not get their building permit by that date, they would have to start all over with the special use process for the permits.
I did have one email from a resident opposed to the solar fields, but unfortunately I do not have that email with me, and she is not here tonight, so I just wanted to express that there was one resident that was all the input I had.
I know in discussion when this one came up, there was several residents that were opposed to this, there were pilots that were opposed to this. I was opposed to this,
if you don't mind me asking, are you in favor of the solar field or no?
No, I voted against it for
Okay.
pure safety reasons
Okay.
because of the flight issues. There are other reasons, but that was my main, it came down to life safety. And I felt it was a life safety issue that, I had asked, hey, can you move the solar, panels in a way so they're not in a direct line with the runway? And I believe they said they couldn't or they wouldn't. I know you were part of that discussion.
How close are they to the runways? Right next to them?
They're not right up next to them, but when you're a pilot, this is how it was explained to me, and I'm not a pilot. When you miss the runway, you don't just miss it by a couple feet. So, when you miss a runway with an airplane, it's very likely they could go into that space because it's not just a couple feet you're missing with a plane.
There are location maps that were put in your packet showing kind of where they're supposed to be.
Page 35 to 36 of your packet are location maps of the two fields. And I also asked Danny to include a lot of the original approval information in your packet for reference because I know it's a new group that's extending it as opposed to the group that originally approved this. So if you want a lot of the details on the project are included in your packet.
What was, I may have missed it, what was the reason that the original group didn't go through with it?
They went through with it. It was approved for a special use in April 16th of 2024. They are just requesting. They need the time for the approvals from the FAA, so it's a really long review process with the FAA.
I may have misunderstood. I thought Scott said originally there was a different group that the approval was for.
No, this is the group, the same group that the project was approved for. It's just taking longer for them to get all the approvals they need before they can come get a building permit. And the way our ordinance works is you get a special use permit and you have a certain amount of time, so you can't just have the special use forever. You need to come eventually get a building permit from the community development department, and they're taking longer than expected initially when they first came through.
And then, so if the board discusses today and votes at the next meeting, and if you do not approve, then this group still has until October. Okay.
October 16th of 2025 is their deadline for their permit then.
Where, I mean, I can't picture where this exactly is. Like, where is it in relation to the airport? How far?
Can you scroll to the other one?
So like this one, so this is across 30.
Oh,
Kind of from where the main entrance for the airport is, that one is across 30.
That where it says subject property
Yes,
is where they want to put the solar farm?
yes.
okay, so the left of that subject property is the airport itself? Oh, that's,
If you
To
scroll
the
down,
north.
And to the north is the airport.
oh, I see, gotcha, okay, gotcha.
And to the east is the a subdivision. And also to the,
Oh, it's okay, I didn't know it's.
And then where's the second one in relation to the airport?
So the second one is, the intersection of Dugan and Wheeler, where the sports complex park is for the park district.
Yeah.
It's kind of across the street on Dugan.
Oh.
So it's kind of northwest of the airport.
Oh, yeah, Dan, here.
Oh, good.
Here's what you think that is.
isn't that the little park over there? No, that's the park.
So here is where CS1 is going to be going.
Park off of the road.
Correct.
And then the second one is here.
What's the issue behind it? What's the reason they put that for? Just money making for the city, or what's the? I mean, it's not related to the airport, right?
The applicant is here, along with their attorney. If you'd like to have them come up and ask questions, that's all right as well. It's up to the chair.
Yeah, but would you like to?
I didn't want to interrupt Amy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dan Kramer. I'm an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Illinois. My address is 1107A South Bridge, Yorkville, Illinois. Over the 49 and a half years I've practiced, I've been here a number of times, and you folks have always treated petitioners and objectors well. I appreciate that. I certainly don't quarrel with the trustees' right to vote no, she did, her opinion. But we're not asking to approve the special use, we're asking for an extension of time for construction. I remember very well in your comments at the meeting that we have to be really careful here at Sugar Grove because the FAA is just a rubber stamp, they don't really look at these things. We found, and we knew that wasn't the case at the time, Sam Dion back here is the director of the project and has been from day one from the filing. And from the time that they got the approval here, they've submitted all the appropriate applications to the FAA, and they just got the no hazard letter last week here in June of 2025. They've also been to the Illinois Transportation Department, which has an aeronautics division, and they go through everything as well. We've not changed the zoning in any fact of how the place would be constructed, but they had to give several studies to both of those agencies to get approved. There's a group called NEPA, who when all the government approvals are joined together, they submit one uniform application again, and then give the building permit from the Fed and state point of view, and then we can come here and get the building permit from the village. Frankly, if you gave us a building permit today, we couldn't turn a spade of dirt without all of these approvals. So Samuel could testify. We've actually got a nice timesheet that we can submit to Danny and the village administrator to pass out before the next board meeting, showing what they've done, when they did it, and what they still have to get approved. So it's a strenuous process to go through. Mr. Rogoff, you asked a really good question, how close it was to the airport. It's actually on airport property. So the Aurora Municipal Airport Authority is leasing the land to my clients. That's fully with their approval. I know there's been some indication that maybe pilots had this concern or that, and they should have out glare, but they had to do the petitioner a detailed professional glare study, and so all of those things have been approved by the federal and again the Illinois Department of Transportation. So all we're asking you, and we think the pointed question at this point, is give us the time to get those final approvals, and then they're ready to build right away. I don't know if they're going to speak tonight, and we didn't ask them to come. They kind of trail you on solar projects around the valley, but you've got four very distinguished union representatives here who are very interested in a project like this succeeding because A, they believe in solar as green energy, and B, they want to build right with union labor, and they attend these meetings to support or seek support from the village in that endeavor. One other thing, a real, I think, practical point that you don't have to be an engineer, and I'm not the old Dave Lincoln surveyor attorney type. But one of the concerns that was raised again tonight is what happens if a pilot misses the runway and crashes into the solar array? And my answer back when the special use zoning was approved is these folks would have a wonderful insurance claim. It would probably do the pilot and the plane no good crashing into anything, even bare ground. But the only thing that would be damaged would be some glass. It's repairable, it's replaceable, no loss of life in the ground. You've got property in your comprehensive plan out right by the airport that's zoned for light industrial commercial type use that would put buildings there. Let's say one of you ran a small business, or my law firm built a business like that. It was a long time abandoned bank building at the corner out by the edge of the airport runway, and we had 10 people working in there. If the pilot misses the runway, it runs into a building with 10 employees, you've probably got 10 dead people. So nobody's going to get hurt here other than the pilot of the plane if they happen to miss. And there's this gigantic, tall, existing tree line between the closest border to the airport that my clients in their landscaping study and also in the view study and so on, they're not going to touch a tree there. That's going to stay. So I'll be quiet. We'll get the schedule to your administrator and to Danny, and we hope you give us the extension on the time of construction. Again, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel about should you grant the special use or not. It's been great. So thanks for your time.
Can I ask you a question, curiosity?
Sure, of course.
Follow-up question. What's the reason for the solar farm? Because it's not just for the airport. Is that just money maker for the village, for the city, or what's the? Because that's obviously more electricity than an airport would use. So what's the point of the solar farm? It's just more.
I personally can't crawl up in the side of the Aurora Airport Authority. I don't know, and I don't know.
I was just
Stand
curious.
for Chris Childress, who is
Just curious.
does a lot of the electrical and solar work around the area. He may be able to answer that. I couldn't begin to tell you the reason.
Yeah, Chris Childress with Progressive Energy Group. We helped you guys do your solar field over here for your facility for the water treatment plant. The idea here is, as part of the contract, the area citizens of Sugar Grove will be able to subscribe to the solar field at a 10 to 15% discount off their bills. So they'll actually see the benefit. Not only that, but it also adds, I think, about $80,000 of school benefit for the schools. So it does provide an economic benefit for the community and for the residents. Matter of fact, they have priority subscription, so the residents will be able to subscribe first.
So that's
Maybe to answer your question, the reason the airport's doing it is it's airport property, they can't really build anything else there, and they can lease it to the solar company and make more money than they can farming it.
Yeah,
That's why the airport would do it.
Okay. So you say it's money to the schools?
It's assessed differently than farmland.
Okay.
It's roughly double the assessment of farmland. It's still not a gigantic number, but it is more property tax revenue for the school district and other agencies than just the farm.
That makes more sense. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Is there any other discussion?
I don't know if it's possible for, Tracy to send the link of minutes or the audio if the other trustees who were not involved in the discussion, so they can hear the discussions pro and against, that way we can make them more informed.
Good idea. I was going to ask for that anyways. Appreciate that.
Again, the one email I got from a resident too, I did send to Scott, maybe to send out so you can see current input as well.
Was there an environmental impact done for this? Because a lot of the, there's been a few cases of damaged solar fields where they reached into the ground.
Go ahead, Sam.
Hello, it's nice to meet you all. I think most of your faces are great. You move forward, I think you as well. And I think Sean is not here today. So we've done a lot for this project, since the approval, since the last time we were here. And we are prepared to meet the deadline for the building permit. It's just going to be a lot of heartburn in the next few months to kind of pull this all together. We've met the requirements for the special use permit in regard to the FAA no hazard letter and approval. So we went through that process. I think that's been submitted. And so the FAA has approved this. The final, the only thing that we haven't done thus far and completed is the NEPA approval through IDOT Aeronautics, which is a wrap-up of the environmental report, I guess. So they look at wetlands, they look at species, and they look at what's the other wetland, biological species, and one other thing. I honestly was forgetting. Do you have the newspaper today?
You've got the other letter. I'm sorry. One other thing I might mention as well, and it's not my pocketbook or yours, but there's a substantial financial commitment. They've spent approximately $4 million between Commonwealth Edison and the studies that had to be submitted to the FAA. So they haven't sat in their haunches at all since April. It's been a steady flow. There is an environmental impact study that was done. They also do a social impact study of how it affects the community. And as he indicated, both the wetland and you got the state highway there, so those have also all been examined by studies. Thank you.
Do you happen to know when the environmental study would be available?
Yes, I'm sorry. So what I was bringing was the cultural clearance. So that's looking at the State Historical Preservation Office. So those are the three things: the biological, cultural clearance, and wetland clearance. All of that is wrapped up into what's called an ESR, or an environmental service request. And because this is an FAA-regulated airport, they delegate the responsibility of IDOT Aeronautics to review that ESR package. And what they do is they individually went through and approved each of those. Each approval took about between 7 to almost a year, 7 months to a year, for each one of those individual approvals that were done more or less in parallel. And now we've received the ESR approval via an email, which is essentially, hey, you've completed these clearances, now you need to begin the NEPA process. And the NEPA process is reviewed through IDOT, and we submitted that in March. It's been there for 3 months. They haven't started the process yet, but we've been in contact with them. They're finishing one more application review. They have to finish the review, deem it complete, and then once they deem it complete, we have to do a 508 compliance, which is, I think, for folks with disabilities being able to, if you're blind or whatever, for public review. And so to answer your question, I apologize, but I just wanted to kind of explain the process. So the current timeline, let's see. Okay, so expected approval conservatively would be January 2026. Or sorry, yeah, January 2026, around end of January 2026. And so we would, the extension would really help just make this more of a seamless process. We can piece this together, get the building permit, and then start construction within that 6 months on this timeline, but it's just a lot more stressful, to be honest. And very much appreciate the leeway of that extra 6 months based on all the permitting. We have posted deposits to ComEd. They study the project, they do a feasibility study, system impact study, facility study, and then they'll come up with a price of what needs to be done for us to safely interconnect to the grid. And then we have to post 100% deposit for all those upgrades. We have posted that for both projects altogether. It's around $4 million. And that was done, honestly, actually before the special use permit originally was approved.
If I may, to Trustee London's question, on page 26, under the following conditions, under number 5, applicant shall perform a soil and water analysis within a solar field at 5 years and 10 years after the facility is placed online to determine whether any undesirable substances from the solar panels are collected on the subject property. So that is something that came up in our earlier discussion, and that was the way that the village board chose to monitor whether or not the field is having any environmental impact being in that location. So that's already been, that'll be addressed by us in the future.
Thank you, Scott. Yeah, I didn't realize that was what the question was about, or that portion of it. So yeah, that was in response to a neighbor in the butter that was concerned about potential for leaching and things like that. So we had agreed to do a baseline study and then continue to study it throughout the life of the system.
What can be done if there is something, if they're on the property, what can you do? Just find out where the leak is, is that the whole point? How, I'm just trying to understand what happens if that becomes positive, if there's something there.
Sure, I imagine we would have to rectify it. That was the solution that came to be. The panels themselves, honestly, they are 4X NEMA certified. They're for hail damage. They're completely sealed, and they're 24/7 monitored. So if there's, it's very, very unlikely. We also don't have, cadmium. They're not they don't have cadmium in them or anything like that. So they're the poly crystallized PV. Yeah.
I'm just curious, how long these panels normally last, and what happens after the useful life of them? Do you guys replace them? I mean, I'm sure this is a newer thing now.
Sure, no, I'm going to answer the question. So typically they're going to last around 35 years or so. They can last more than these are commercial grade panels, so it's a little bit, a little more industrial than maybe what goes on the home. But generally the same thing. And so 35 years is what you're probably the sweet spot. They degrade by 0.05% each year as far as efficiency. So it just gets to the point where, it makes sense to, remove and recycle them. And there is a decommissioning bond, put in place with the county prior to construction and building permits. So, if anything happens, that it can be pulled by the village to remove the panels. I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we will close the discussion item at this time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the consideration.
Thank you for the opportunity to see you on the first.
Thank you. Our next item for discussion is the village code, village engineer, village administrator Scott Cowell has a board report on this item.
Thank you. In the village code, we've got Title 1, or Chapter 9, Article F is titled Consulting Engineer. And as going through and updating code, updating all the appointments after the most recent mayoral election, we need to get this updated to reflect our staffing. We have a village engineer who is not a consultant. We used to not have a village engineer on staff and had a consulting engineer, which was EEI. While we still use EEI and HR Green, we do have a village engineer on staff, Brian Schreiber, and staff is requesting to update village code to reflect that and change it from consulting engineer to village engineer. And also, we noticed that several of the positions, treasurer, village engineer, village clerk, and village code official, all have 1-year terms in village code. And staff is recommending the board discuss the potential of changing those from 1 year to 4 years so that they can run along the term of the mayor. Those are all filled by full-time staff members, and it would just be convenient and along with every term of the mayor to just reappoint them. If not, we can leave it the way that it is, and then we'll just need to bring back those appointments every year in May. So, happy to answer any questions.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will close the discussion item at this time. Our next item up for discussion is the village code 1.5 mile radius comprehensive plan commission. The discussion is on whether to extend the radius of the applicants available to apply to the plan commission to the 1.5 mile statutory radius. Village administrator Scott Cowell has a board report on this item.
Sure, I can add a little addition to the discussion. Currently, the way that our code is written is that the plan commission consists of 7 members. 6 of the members shall be appointed as citizens of the village, and 1 may be from Sugar Grove Township. I believe this was drafted. That portion was drafted back when we only had 1 township in the village. We might have had a little bit of Big Rock at the time. From the village attorney, we are allowed by state law to have include our municipal planning area, which is 1.5 miles outside the village limits. And you'll notice in the draft ordinance from the village attorney, they lay out 2 options in question whether it would be, if it is decided to change it to from Sugar Grove Township to be 1.5 miles. Do you want that to just be for 1 of the 7 members or for any of the members? That's something that could be discussed. Also, I include in my memo the portion of code 214 about the chairman. The chairman of the planning commission shall be appointed by the village president, excepting for a sitting chairman at the time the ordinance is adopted. The chairman shall not be a member who is a resident of the village of Sugar, or shall be a resident of the village of Sugar Grove. So essentially what that was is that it said, going forward, only residents can be the chair of the planning commission, unless you were the chair when that was changed in, I believe that was 2002. So it's no longer needed, the way that it's worded, it's no longer needed to be in code because that verb has retired and is no longer the chairman. The current chair, Becky Zabo, is a resident of the village. So that could just be removed from village code as now. It would just, 5 years from now, it would probably just be confusing.
Is there any discussion?
I received emails and calls and people coming up to me and talking to me about this. All were wanting it to actually revise our code to where only residents of Sugar Grove should be on the plan commission because we're a big enough village that we have enough people who are residents of Sugar Grove that are applying that we don't need somebody neither option one or two, but revising it so it was just residents of Sugar Grove on the plan commission. I personally, kind of fall into that category too.
My thought is, we don't necessarily need, somebody within 1.5 miles, but, because we have a development that is, affecting people within a 1.5 mile radius. In the past, we've had protests and things like that, and I'd like to avoid that, in the next 4 years. I think possibly, having people within 1.5 miles of a development, since this is, within 1.5 miles of our comprehensive plan, allowing them to have representation might, foster some good discussions on the planning commission and hopefully avoid the protests and things like that, because they will be able to have those discussions versus, people getting upset that something is being put within so close to them and not being able to have a meaningful impact.
I concur with Heidi. I would like the plan commission to be all residents of the village of Sugar Grove, and checking other municipalities just to see what's a common practice. And must be a resident in their code is Elburn, Batavia, St. Charles, Campton Hills, Oswego, Montgomery, and Yorkville. Even though Geneva and North Aurora don't have it in their specific code, they do require the person to be a resident. So I didn't find any major deviations of other communities that did that. So I would like to see all plan commission members, residents of the village of Sugar Grove. But I do have a suggestion for you. I think maybe you should have a Blackberry Township Advisory Committee that you meet with and discuss different plans and different ideas. And that may be a way for you to solicit feedback from people that have concerns, like you said, that are now within this additional area of the village.
I'm not on the planning commission, so I'm going to be, speaking directly to them. So this is for decisions being made in the planning commission about specific projects.
Right. No, I'm talking completely separate of the planning commission, because obviously after the planning commission, it still comes here, and then you would then have that additional input. It's just a suggestion.
I know, I love this suggestion, but I think the issue is many Blackberry Township residents came out to speak against that development being put so close to them, and they were not listened to. So that's why it makes sense to have a representative from that area with a vote. If we're going to put a development so close, I do like that this is in state statute, and we have the option of having a 1.5 mile radius. It doesn't seem unreasonable.
So I think that it's the village of Sugar Grove residents that pay our taxes, and the plan commission helps decide what goes in our village to help with our taxes. And that's why I think they should be just residents. Like I said, we're not hurting for the number of applicants that are residents. All of the comments that I have heard verbally, over the phone, emails, have been wanting it just residents. And as far as Blackberry Township not being heard, I disagree with that. They were heard. They were disagreed. Just because somebody voted against doesn't mean they weren't heard. They were heard, but the board voted in what they felt was the best interest of the village of Sugar Grove.
Okay, I want to say something. I mean, I totally agree with Sue on this one. I think, what happened last year, I think a lot of people outside of town, the village, were upset with what happened. And in the future, it'd be nice to have somebody on there that represents people outside of town. I know we're here for Sugar Grove residents, but people, this is the decisions we make affect people that are close to our border. I think we should have someone on the planning commission that speaks to those people that are not actually residents of the village.
We did.
What?
We did.
So there's another concern is we probably shouldn't just have ordinances for one people if we did it for her. It seems reasonable to allow a 1.5 mile radius.
What's special about him than anybody else? employees? Why can't it be just a random person? Why is it maybe one person?
I don't know the history of, I mean, with all those years that Herb served, and obviously he did what he was asked to do and was appointed to do all those years, but after I checked with all these other towns, just to see, well, maybe we're looking at this wrong, and with so many neighboring communities that don't allow non-residents, I just don't see any reason, because I prefer all residents.
So just to clarify, it wasn't one person could serve, it was, you could have one member from Sugar Grove Township. It wasn't that the only one person could serve, there happened, that person happened to be Herb, it wasn't that it was just like, oh, it's one person.
No, I know, but he's saying, well, Herb was on, if he can't be on, if he can be on there, why should we let it open to anybody? Why is it just a person?
No, you said that unincorporated person on there, and there was, Herb.
But it's not one right now, right?
Correct, because, Herb retired.
I think the only example that we have is Irv, who was a township resident on the planning commission, and from what I've heard, that worked out very well. So I think we've had township residents allowed for 40-something years, and nothing bad ever came of that. So, and in the evidence that we have, it worked out very well to allow someone from the township.
So are you saying just Sugar Grove Township?
No, the statutory 1.5 radius. And if a Sugar Grove Township resident, worked out well, and a Blackberry Township resident could work out well as well.
Like I said, I've been elected by only residents of the village of Sugar Grove. And the only comments I've had from the residents of the village of Sugar Grove, who I represent, has been they only want residents of Sugar Grove on the board. That is who I represent. That is what I believe. And so I understand, trust me, I know all of the Blackberry Township people who are upset about the crowd. I heard them all. I sat through all those meetings. Doesn't mean they weren't heard. They were heard, but the board voted on what they thought was best for the village of Sugar Grove, because there were a lot of Sugar Grove residents who were saying different things. And it comes down to, who are you elected to serve?
I think that's actually an excellent example. So the board did what they thought was best, but not having a Blackberry Township person on the planning commission. We now know that we have the advisory referendum, what the village actually wanted, because there were more residents that did not want this to happen. So it's possible if we had representation from a township resident at the time, the vote would have gone differently and the residents would have been happy.
Well, and Heidi, you were saying that you heard from Sugar Grove residents. The other person on the board is not from Blackberry, from Sugar Grove Township. They can tell you what people around us think. And yes, we represent Sugar Grove, but we also affect people around us.
We affect people
So
around
why not
us.
let them have a I'm not saying like just have up to one member, just have a voice. I mean,
I agree with Tony in reaching out to our neighbors and listening to what they have to say. I don't want them involved in our government as far as the planning commission and our village board. I don't want, a resident of some other town that's not paying my taxes on the planning commission, because that I think gets a little messy, because we all live in the village of Sugar Grove. We pay our taxes, and the planning commission helps determine what kinds of businesses come in and what kinds of businesses don't come in.
but we had someone on the planning commission for 40 years, and that was allowed. Why all of a sudden now it's a bad thing?
Frankly, I don't think it should have been. I'm not sure. I wasn't there when it was allowed, but it was a much smaller village at that time, and maybe they had difficulty in filling those positions. We don't have that difficulty now. I believe at the time, the village of Sugar Grove was almost completely in the township of Sugar Grove. So I think it was a little bit different makeup. And now we have a bigger village. We have a lot of residents who want to be on the board. And yes, listen to our neighbors. Yes, have an advisory talk or whatever, but maybe a non-voting member who can make their statement.
So you'd be okay with a non-voting member, of the planning commission?
What?
A non-voting member, someone who's at the there can talk?
I probably wouldn't have a problem with a non-voting member, but.
Just that idea out there.
And I'm in agreement with the other two trustees here. I understand, I feel like we're kind of pushing this just because of the Crown development, whereas if we have another development on the south side of town, we're gonna have somebody from another neighboring jurisdiction to the south on the board. What about if we go out west? Are we gonna try to push, like where does it stop that we have somebody to represent a project that's going on closest to home for them? You know, you see the other jurisdictions that are already listed that have people that are residents. I would like to keep everything in-house. I think it's a good idea. And I like the commission, I like the idea of having an advisory commission. I think that's great. Maybe even have, you know, yourself and one other person to sit on that to have an extra set of ears as well, and then bring that information back as we make decisions. But I truly would like to see it all just stay within the village.
Is there any,
One comment I have is that this is a may, not a shall. So in the case of a may, it's that, well, if we didn't have the numbers, well, then we could get somebody else, but we could give, you know, obviously preference to just selection. But it doesn't say we must have somebody from outside on it, just that it's permitted. So there's a difference there. I can see the advantage in both sides, and I actually like the idea of having some sort of advisory committee from out the outside to step in, because this is only one person that you could possibly put on here.
is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll close the discussion item at this time. And the next discussion item is the point wetland maintenance. Public Works Director Brad Norvell, the board report at this time.
Good evening, everyone. Here to discuss the Mallet Point and Lot 10, drainage areas and wetland maintenance. I don't know if you guys know where, I'm going to kind of discuss both of them together. Lot 10 is the detention basin in Windsor Point behind Jewel that the developer, I don't know how many years ago, they quit taking care of it, so we have a special SSA that we fund the maintenance of that with. So that is a much newer basin that's been regularly maintained, so it requires a less, I'll just say invasive, less work. It's in way better shape, so it requires a lot less money. Where Mallard Point is a case of it went 25 or 30 years with no maintenance. So we've been doing minimal, like with herbicide treatments, controlled burns, but no reseeding or anything. So I'm looking for some direction. If you guys want to keep it status quo, or you just want to do the minimum, or do you want to try and get it back to a beautiful native area? The biggest thing that we focused on back when the village took this project over was making sure the area drained, and that's the avenue we went in. And it still does do that, but it just there's a lot of invasive species, and the seabed is complete invasive species.
So the question is, the cost of this is paid for by the SSA for the development?
For lot 10s, Mallard is paid for out of the general fund. And you can see the two estimates are on two different, levels. So I've reached out to a couple other suppliers or contractors to get another pricing similar to the V3. V3 does the maintenance in Settlers Ridge, and they have since it was built. And if you go out there, you can see what the wetland should look like, the native area should look like in Mallard.
Mallard has a long history. It started out as residents having water and sub pump issues in their basement, and it required an SA project and other things to put in a pipe and extensive work, because what happened to that subdivision, the HOA was never formed, the SSA was voted down, so there was no money to keep it drained. And so it was quite extensive over the course of time. While the village spent a lot of money, residents are still paying for that SA improvement. And it took a lot to get it to properly drain. We even had to lower the height of the water in the detention pond to help so that the water level in the pond was lower than the lowest basement elevation in that subdivision. So it's something that the village has saddled with because we then worked to own the property so that we could continue to maintain it. But like in my subdivision or in Mike's subdivision and everybody else, Heidi, and there's an SSA backup so that if our drainage and stormwater fail, the village can enact that, and that's what Brad's talking about for Lot 10 as part of Jewel. And they failed to maintain that, so we were able to act the SSA to maintain it. So everything in Mallard Point comes from the village general fund. This other detention pond does come through the SSA, which is funded by the businesses in that area. I guess I have a concern over the costs. I'm not opposed to restoring areas and making them more natural, but it was quite a huge jump, and I don't know where we stand budgetarily to consider this, and this may be something better discussed at budget time.
So I've only gotten feedback from one resident. He was not happy with the original contractor that was used when it was I think it was 25,000 last spent. He thought he was gonna come speak tonight. He's not here, but he was concerned about the chemical application. Oh, he is here. I'm so sorry. Did you want to talk to him?
I can wait.
Okay.
I can wait.
Thank you, Steve.
But when you want me to, just let me know.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay.
So there was some concern about the chemical application. I recently had the monitor project at the library, and there were two companies that I had worked with. Both of them were able to recommend a different company that we could use, and then Brad also had a company that he worked with on Settlers Ridge that did a really nice job, but that one was twice as much, so hopefully the other quotes come in less. Otherwise, is it an option to leave it alone but add some native seeds so maybe we could reseed now, because that's inexpensive in the hundreds of dollars. We could probably make some progress.
Well, I think, I need to meet with the V3 guy again, but I think on the Mallard stuff, like some of the mowing, village staff can do that, so that could reduce some of those costs. You know, some of the invasive tree clearing, if we can have some help identifying what we're clearing, because my staff is trained in that, so I think that we could maybe do a little, you know, a la carte to both of these and come within, figure out, use what we have budgeted this year. And then like Tony said, do the best we can this year where we have our budget, and then next year we can address if we want to do a more proactive approach to it, you know?
Yeah, maybe we see what the other companies come back with.
Yeah, we're still waiting for Bastion Woodland to get back to us, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is a large budgetary item.
I agree.
I got one thing to add. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I recall that the one behind Jewel, I mean, it's gotten a lot weedier than the past. So, I mean, if you don't do a burn this year, you should do one next year, somewhere in the near future, should.
Yeah.
I could see it getting worse every year, so. I want my dog next to it.
Yeah, the V3 one, they are recommending a burn this year, and native overseeding and site stewardship. I think we only had 12,000 for that.
Yeah, so we just wanted to speak on the budget too. Also, the end cap does show prescribed burn next year.
Yeah, next year.
But just talking budgetarily, right now we have 25,000 budgeted for Mallard Point. I think we should look at something a la carte this year and then really look at it in the budget and make a note to get better quotes. I mean, maybe not do a 3-year this year. Do our 1 year for whatever we're prescribed or ready to do, and then we can talk budget time.
I'm definitely up for trying to spend as little as possible.
And then just for SSA 10, I know that there's talk about that and doing more. The problem with that is we levied for a specific amount based on the previous years of contracts. So for next budget, like But if, again, you want to look at that, we look at the levy time to what we levy for that SSA. We did not levy on whatever the max was for that. So if there's something that wants to be added, again, that should be due for next year as well.
Makes sense to me.
So,
I just like it at some point to be addressed, because it's getting, I appreciate Heidi.
Yeah. So, I think, so what you're saying, Matt, is right now, let's do a plan, and then when it comes to budget time, where we can levy for additional funds to get the more expensive work, discuss it then.
for SSA 10,
Yeah.
that one specifically, we need to address when we talk levy for that one, what we plan to do for the next year, so that we make sure we're levying enough money to cover those costs. Mallard, right now, we have 25,000 budgeted in there, and we can use the 13.5 and then maybe some additional, if there's a plantings or something additional that we can all part do. But I do not recommend then approving a 3-year plan if we're going to plan on changing it. Stick to the 1 year of what that's being recommended, and then we talk about it during the budget if we want to change that for the future.
So I think what I'll do is I'll go back and talk to V3 and get a little different program set up for 1 year and keep it within budget. How's that sound? I'll bring it back.
Would you be able to ask all the companies?
Yes, yeah. I'll get updated quotes from her. I just want to see what everybody's kind of interest was in performing more work or less or whatever. Okay? Thank you.
If there's no objection, we do have our resident on Valley Point that had some thoughts on that wetland area.
It's okay because you missed the public
I
comment.
know.
If you knew something, you could have got it. I'll just consider this part of the regular public comment. It could have came up, in my opinion, I don't know anybody else.
Good evening. Steve Cromer, 452 Pebblebrook Court. Brad knows me well. I call him probably once a year about the prairie. We've lived there for 13 years, and Brad has always had his heart in the right spot as far as trying to get things going over at Mallard Point. Myself personally, I've never laid any blame on any of the village for this, but I will tell you that over the years, what I've seen from a production standpoint of the handling of the prairie over there has been very poor. Right now, we are currently standing in 6 feet of ragweed over there. That spreads across the entire prairie. And that was the same last year. So, I always try to calm myself down when I think of the ragweed over there, because we do have family members that suffer from allergies. And the prairie, my wife actually sent me tonight a series of photos. They go back to 2012 when we bought the house. Gorgeous. Gorgeous prairie, undisturbed. Granted, I understand it was a terrible thing for the drainage. We moved in right when that SSB was invoked. I think it was SSB, not SSA, if I'm not mistaken.
No,
Is it an
there's
SSA?
two things, there's an SA and an SSA. The SA is in effect, and you're paying for that, which is part of the pipe and the drainage to make that all.
Got it. That part, much improved. I mean, because after that process was done, it overgrew for quite a while. And I would walk my dogs through there every day, and I'm like, all these drains are getting clogged. They're full of grass and debris and all kinds of things. But that's been remedied. It's been cleaned up immensely. But we've all seen it. I know Brad's fully aware of it. We've had the same house under NCAP's work burnt twice, melted twice. The spraying of first of all, the felling of all the trees through the prairie. There are still a lot of trees standing that are dead trees. Not from natural occurrence. This is from the burn. They're burnt to the top, and they stand there charred black still today. Right there before you turn right onto Pebblebrook Court, you will see them standing dead, right there. I'm surprised not more residents are here tonight, because all of us have been upset by this repeatedly. NCAP has done their due diligence, I think, as far as contractually what they're supposed to do or what they're told to do. But I will tell you that whatever they put down to get rid of the phragmites and everything that are supposedly or that they're invasive, in my honest opinion, I think they're just as part as any other wetland that I drive between here and Chicago. Because I do look at these things. We've got photographs, folks, going back from the time we bought the house every year of that prairie and what happens to it after NCAP comes through. We saw trees get felled, we saw them get left in large piles for over a year, close to 2 years, and then set ablaze, only to watch animals scurrying out of it. You know, just, it's kind of like they tore it down and let it set. And I will tell you that I think any project that you guys are considering, I love, Brad, that you're considering bringing in somebody else, because I was personally going to reach out to you and be like, please do not bring them back in. Nothing against Tony, nice guy and everything, but the last spring where they just sprayed everything blue, and I know I bothered Brad back then too. What are they spraying out there? You know, because my kids, my place sits right there, and the pets are out there and everything. So, you know, we wanted to know what it was. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll stop.
Thank you so much, Steve.
But I do appreciate you guys looking at it again, and I hope that you guys find a viable source. And I love hearing about possibly putting the village guys out there, because I think those eyes of village employees actually seeing it versus a subcontract, much better idea. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we will close the discussion of the Valley Point Platinum maintenance at this time. Our next discussion item is lot number 10, the natural area maintenance. Actually, that was already so now we'll move on to the next agenda item, reports. We have staff reports. First, we have the administration department, Scott Cowell.
Yeah, thank you. So a couple items that were discussed at the last village board meeting we're finalizing. It should be coming back on July 1st. One of those is the police station remodel. We should have a location ready to go. We're currently negotiating a contract with the property owner and should have that ready to go at the next meeting. Lennar is finalizing their engineering with us and should be back for the final approval of their plat with engineering and everything complete, so we won't need to delay that after the fact at all. So it's good to keep those projects moving, but couldn't quite get them done in a 2-week turnaround, but to make sure we get it right when we bring it back to the group. So also happy to answer any questions.
Hearing none, we'll go on to the next staff report. Finance Department, Matt and Anastasia.
Nothing additional to that.
Thank you. Community Development Department, Dan and Marion.
And nothing additional to add.
Thank you. Police Department, Chief of Police, Pat Rollins.
On June 12th, it's not on here, we had a rollover accident at the parking division. Oh, I'm sorry, parking 47. So just, the parties were okay. We had traffic closed for a little bit, rerouted, but I know staff is working on looking at, working and Scott Stevens and waiting on IDOT for improvements in that area. So that was moving from the west side over by Aldi straight across towards McDonald's, clipped the car and rolled it over. So.
We are working at IDOT. We have turned it into the permits department with them, waiting to get approval back to improve that intersection so people can't drive from straight across 47 anymore. We've been working on it for quite a while. Because it's an IDOT road, 47, it's just not something we can do overnight. But we know about it, and it is extremely frustrating. We've identified a problem, are ready to address it, but we're held up by the state. Extremely frustrating, especially in some of this work.
I had a question for Chief. In regards to license plate readers, there was a recent article about license plate readers being misused, information being misused in a suburb. Could you please address how our department is taking care of that doesn't happen?
Sure. Just so there's a few vendors out there that have a business for the automatic license plate readers that just reads the plates, and the data that's captured off those plates usually maintains or is owned by the municipality that collects the data. So our information that's stored is stored in a cloud version for a certain retention period. And then the nice thing is, for law enforcement purposes, is we can, if we're looking for a specific car, if we're looking for something that might have happened, a burglary, or a missing child, or something else, we can go look at other cameras that are tied to the same network. Illinois is very specific. They have boilerplate language that they're attaching to a lot of bills now, and some of the for law enforcement, and one is women's rights or health care, the other one is for immigration. So automatic license plate readers, when it was passed, says that it can't be shared outside of Illinois for the purposes of immigration, checking immigration status, or for women's rights to health care or abortion and so forth. So a recent audit was done. Agency in Texas accessed the license plate readers for the right purposes. So what got reported in the news isn't always the right reasons that it got reported for. So this, the Texas agency took a missing persons report and did a nationwide search for the car based on the license plate. So it hit some of the Illinois agencies' LPR systems to see if they had traveled through their community in the past, 30 days. And that's what was found. No one was charged. The person that was missing wasn't charged. It wasn't a criminal case. It was a check well-being to find out what's going on, that person's going to be okay. So Flock has seen this. This is not the first time it's come up. It's been up there a few times before from other agencies. I'm an advocate for this, for the camera systems. It's been very beneficial for us in our investigative needs, as well as think about where our location is here in Sugar Grove. How far away from Iowa? How far away are we from Wisconsin? And how far away are we from Indiana? Well, our criminals are traveling from other areas outside of Illinois, and they are crossing state lines. So it'd be nice to know, hey, what's going? Can we see additional information? So there's what's called a nationwide search through Flock that we can enable, and then when we enable that, that enables them also at the same time a reciprocal agreement that they have to. They have a reciprocal agreement that they can look at our data as well. But there's a caveat that's built into Flock that says, hey, if you're looking at Illinois cameras across all of the states, you can't use it for immigration purposes or for the healthcare purposes for women. So there have been violations, and Flock has revoked statuses from other agencies outside of Illinois. We're not looking here, so. But if I was an agency, let's say just over the border, let's say I'm in Wakanda and, 12 miles away or whatever it might be to Wisconsin, I want to know what's happening because they're not stopping at Illinois. So there's benefits to have other agencies, other states look at our data. So we do have, there's 2 access points for us to limit searches, revoke rights of others from outside the state to look at our data. But at the same time, we gave an example last time when we had a look. We had 2 very 16-year-olds run away, take a car, steal a car, and travel, and they made it to Indiana. If we didn't have access to certain, camera systems, they would have been onto their destination, which was South Carolina or North Carolina. I can't remember. So it's been beneficial. So Flock has published on their website material, and it's out there for the public to know. I know I sent it. So there's information about making sure that that they are transparent as well as us in the trust that's in public safety. But it goes on and explains everything that I kind of went through. We do our best to try to limit the data that's being pulled from our camera systems. However, then we're in a silo and we're not sharing data. So Illinois, like I said, is the unique one for those two purposes that Flock has to deal with. But they have programs that are going to be rolled out here and later in 2025 for AI searches and everything else to see what's going. We also have internally, we can look at who has accessed our camera systems. And it's not necessarily access Sugar Grove. If they might say, hey, give me everyone in the Illinois network. So it might be someone from Carbondale saying, I want to look to see if this place been, you know, it was used for a homicide. We want to see if it's made its way, you know, through Illinois or through another state. So, but I'll be happy to share this link out to everyone that Flock is responding to the inaccuracies of some of the newspaper articles that have gone out there. Happy to answer any additional questions.
A question for you, so honestly, people have to ask, honestly, justices have to ask you each time, because.
So you can, so we get requests, as more agencies go online with automatic license plate readers, they then send a request to agencies, hey, we just went online, can you share your data as well as with us? So typically when this first opened up, we had one from Houston. I said no, because I knew what the law was back in the day. You have to have a written agreement saying that you can't use it for the two purposes. And otherwise, you know, so and it has to be maintained. That record has to be maintained with each municipality. So when we see out-of-state agencies looking to access us, we need an agreement.
Okay.
But, you know, and the onus is on them not to search for those purposes. And we're required, I shouldn't say we're required. The practice right now is you're supposed to put in the reason why you're doing a search. So for us, it was a burglary, or you know, whatever it might be, or a stolen vehicle that we're looking at, or a drug investigation. You know, so we'll put something down there, and we put a report number that goes with it. Every agency sets up their own policies.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our last report from staff is Public Works Department, Brad Merkel.
I have really nothing to add except for we did get approval from IDOT to bid the municipal crosswalk here out here, 30 municipal drives that will be going out to bid here in the next couple weeks through IDOT. And when I get an update, I'll bring it back to you.
Thank you. We now have trustee reports. Trustee Lindy.
Forest Preserve King County, and I attended the 100-year celebration at Johnson Mound. Very nice with booths that had wild ones and Conservation Foundation there. I dropped off some information from the Conservation Foundation on native plants to staff to help as a resource for our native plants ordinance. I listened to their board meeting as well, and they had a public hearing for intent to sell bonds for land acquisition. But more excitingly, they are looking at bison coming to Burlington Prairie Forest Preserve. I've heard of bison, no more than 10, and they're looking at
What forest preserve? Where?
It is Burlington Prairie Forest Preserve. I believe it's in Sycamore. So they're looking at doing that in the fall, I think, is when they're looking at potentially getting some. For the library, hopefully some of you guys got the wonderful flyer that came. This is fantastic. I don't have to go through any of this stuff you do. This sits on my fridge. There's a lot of fun things going on at the library. Also, the reading program that's going on. I know I signed up. I attended a ribbon cutting at Rosewood Farm with the Chamber of Commerce, and I think Sean was there as well. I'm very grateful for that business in our community. I went to Reuben and Grove, lots of food trucks, good food truck selection. I love the Sugar Grove Fire Protection District open house. I got to see some things catch on fire and burn, always nice. And I have to say, the police had traffic control done beautifully with the overflow lot and everything, very nicely done. I visited the Sugar Grove Food Pantry's new location. My daughters are closing out their Girl Scout troops, so we did a bunch of donation of food there, and it's a very, very nice facility there. Bridge is looking good, can't be finished soon enough, and it's a very clean site, I will have to say. They're keeping it clean and they're working on it. And one other thing to say, I have to say I was shocked at the recent social media posts and comments attacking our Chamber of Commerce, a private resident, and previous village boards made by our village president under her title of village president. Having been a small business owner for many years, these comments really troubled me. I strongly disagree with her and give my full support to the Sugar Grove Chamber of Commerce. If our village president does not wish to support the chamber, as previous presidents have done in the past, I will do what I can to support them and encourage other trustees to step up where they can to support our local businesses. One additional thing I would like to address is the accusation that previous boards didn't listen to residents. If the village board votes in a way you don't agree with, it doesn't mean they didn't hear you. It just means they didn't agree with you. There is a big difference. Everyone is not going to agree all the time on everything. I encourage all of our residents to let your elected officials know all your concerns.
Thank you. Trustee Lemon.
Just a couple items. Attended the first monarch beautification meeting. It was extremely well attended. People had a nice program to tell us all about the different types of pollinator plants and natural plants there, as well as free seeds, free seeds and plants that they could plant at their homes. So that was very well received. The attendance was great. And I also attended the Chamber of Commerce fundraiser that they just had over at Rosewood Farms, and that was a very nice event.
Thank you. Trustee Special.
Just compliment staff and everybody for moving in the Grove and all our partner agencies and everybody. I thought it was a nice event, having food trucks, music, parts of the street closed. I think that made an improvement with flow and access around the site, and just everybody, all our staff, police, public works. I know the fire department, they're open house. I just thought it was a wonderful community event, and just thank you to everybody that had some part in setting it up. I know we had other staff on coordinating food trucks and other groups do the music, but library too, and just compliments to everybody.
Trustee Roscoe.
June 12th, I went to the Kiwanis meeting. There were a plastic car truck show and breakfast on June 18th. I guess there's some flyers in the library that was wrong, but it's June 28th from 8 to 11. The money's going for help some needy families for medical care. They also have some event in August to help the young kids who are high golf. And then June 13th, with a Jimmy groundbreaking with some other trustees and a bunch of other people. And I went to the Ruben and Grove, and that was, like Tony said, it was excellent. It's probably the biggest one I've seen. There's a lot of that's bigger than normal, so excellent job.
Thank you. Trustee Bowman.
Yes, Madam President, while I respect your right to share your opinion, I find the tone and content of your response in the email to the Sugar Grove Chamber of Commerce both concerning and counterproductive, particularly given your role in representing the village as president. You previously emphasized in both public meetings and written communications the importance of working together with taxing bodies and businesses in town. And the goal here is to benefit the Sugar Grove as a whole. Use the relationship with the school district several times as a prime example of what can be accomplished when we operate with the spirit of unity rather than division. It is disappointing then to see your tone in the email sent to the Sugar Grove Chamber. It's also worth noting that resorting to some accusatory tones and dismissive language is just, in my opinion, childish. And I really would expect more out of our village president. And I encourage you to reconsider how tone and content and consistency play a role in effective leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. For the president's report tonight, I would like to address the comments that were made by Trustee Lindsay and Trustee Bonnie. I agree, unity is extremely important. I am here for a short time. I will not be the village president forever. I believe short years. While I am here, I would like to do what I can to put a stop to things that I believe have harmed our village in the past. The Chamber of Commerce has enough staff and enough support at this time to attend their events. If I can make a strong statement against something like choosing friends in director positions, I would like to do that. Not because I want conflict with the chamber. I actually adore the chamber and started out, working with them on planters and things like that. But because I want to make a difference, I want, the next time the chamber chooses a director or I choose a planning commissioner or, anyone has that option, I think they may remember this now and not, go for the really good friend and really look at the residents in our community and possibly 1.5 miles out to, choose people that are really fit for that role, even if they're not friends with them or they're not associates with them. Like, let's search our community and find these people, and that will change the village for the better. That is why I did that. The chamber, I believe, has the support that they need, and I would like to also support those small businesses through the EDC. That can definitely be done. Rosewood Farm, for example, I'm there several times a week getting jams and sourdoughs and all sorts of things. Like, I support these businesses, and the chamber members are very important to me as well. So I just wanted to clarify that. I think that's it for President's report. If I could please have a motion to move into executive session at this time. We have a first from Trustee Roscoff. Is there a second?
Let me just clarify, could you please, could the motion be to, if you don't mind, enter executive session to discuss personnel under 5 ILCS 120/2C1 with the board adjourning after the executive session is complete without taking any further action.
Motion with that change.
We have a first from Trustee Roscoff
Second.
and a second from Trustee London. All right, if we can have a roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Roscoff?
Aye.
Trustee London?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy,
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie? Trustee Special?
Aye.
Yes, and we'll move to executive session.